Yeah. Welcome, everybody. So excited to have you here. We're going to give it just another minute or so. I see people kind of rolling in. So we'll give you all a good minute to actually get to start time. And then we'll get things introduced and rolling. All right, let's see. Let's just check on numbers. Great. Just so everyone knows, we are recording. We definitely will see this as being an interactive session, so you know. But really so excited to have you all here. And yeah, I'm going to go forward and start our introduction. So welcome, everybody. My name is Eileen Grimes, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am incredibly privileged to introduce you to your speaker, Jen Kronberger. Jen is a widely sought after 4-time TEDx speaker and compassionate leadership culture change consultant, and is the founder and chief inspiration officer of J.Lynn Consulting Group, LLC, and the Human Leadership Institute. Most of her last 20 years have been spent instilling in confidence and building deeper connections and awareness. Her master's degree is in sports and performance psychology, and some of Jen's clients have included professional athletes, as well as organizations that include Nike, Procter & Gamble, Lockheed Martin, the U.S. Department of Defense, the NIH, and the USDA. Jen is a Dare to Lead instructor. She holds certifications from the Harvard Business School in Sustainable Business Strategy, Diversity and Inclusion from Cornell University, and the Science of Wellbeing from Yale University. Jen is currently an invite-only member of the Forbes Coaches Council for 2020-2021 and a doctoral candidate in the field of leadership. She has a podcast called The Possibility Project and writes monthly columns for a variety of publications, including Forbes. She published her first book in 2012 called These 5 Words Are Mine. Jen was named Female Business Leader of the Year in 2009 and Best of 2015 to 2019, the #1 motivational speaker in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. regions. And most recently, Mainline Today magazine hailed Jen as one of its 2020 Power Women, listing her as a name you should know, and highlighted her longtime focus on compassion and empathy, especially significant now in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jen is a huge Yankees fan who lives in the Philly suburbs, which is a difficult thing to do, with her partner, who is unfortunately a Red Sox fan, which is also difficult, and her 2 labs, Quinley and Benson. They both thankfully are Yankees fans. And if you don't really care about baseball at all, that's okay. Either way, please welcome Jen Kronberger.
Eileen, thank you so much for the introduction. Eileen is my right hand with J.Lynn Consulting Group, and I am blessed to have you. Thank you, Eileen. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see you all here. As we get going today, we're going to have a little conversation, and I'm going to first kind of kick this off by telling you, again, my name is Jen Kronberger. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I identify as bisexual. I am honored to share this hour with you. So this is my 4th year presenting a workshop at Summit, and I'm really honored to have a voice at the table with you all. My flagship program that I went out on the road to share in the very beginning, when I first started this work about 20 years ago, and yes, I'm that old. I started my company when I was 10. Does that work? Anyway, the first program I built for the corporate world was my 5 C's, and they stand for character, communication, choice, courage, and confidence. I still deliver that one today, and it focuses on who you are and how you show up as an individual. The B.R.A.V.E Human Leadership Program that I've delivered here at Summit previously was born from that 6 years ago, and it stands for belonging, resilience, authenticity, vulnerability, and empathy. And it's what I spend most of my time today sharing to help create more inclusive cultures in the workplace. I believe strongly that when you begin to bring DEI work into the fold, it's critical to make sure that the soil you're planting it in has enough light, water, and nutrients to grow. This is why I developed the B.R.A.V.E Human Leadership Model, to do just that, to make sure the DEI strategies and initiatives that we're all utilizing today could be planted into a culture that was strong enough to sustain it. If you don't tend to the culture first, it's like planting a tree on concrete. And we all know that doesn't work. So that concept of brave was not just an idea, it's a behavior. A global pandemic has given us many things, some of which we must use for what they are. A moment to pause and reflect on how we lead and who we lead. Recognizing that we have an obligation to our people to show up differently and to give them the permission to do the same. So why? This idea of asking more questions and making less assumptions is a gift. To pause and to really seek to understand. This reminds me of the story I heard a long time ago about cooking the ham. Glenn was cooking a ham for family dinner, and his husband Tim walked in and asked, "Hon, why do you cut both ends off the ham before you cook it? Seems like such a good waste of food." Glenn looked up and replied, "Well, that's the way my mom cooked it. It says right here in a recipe, cut off both ends before putting it in the pan." So later that night on a phone call with his mom, he asked her, "Hey mom, why do you cut the ends off the ham when you cook it?" She said, "I don't know, but that's always what my mom did. And it comes out really great, doesn't it?" He said, "Yeah, it was perfect." So a few months later at a holiday party, Glenn went and sat with his grandmother and they got to chatting and he said, "Hey Graham, why do you cut the ends off the ham when you cook it?" "It was in mom's recipe. I just made it the other day. She said she got it from you." Graham looked at him oddly and then finally responded, "Well, Glenn, I had a small oven, so I needed to cut the ends off to fit in the pan." Leading today, perhaps we should start asking, why are we cutting the ends of the ham? Because what we've always done is no longer going to work. We must ask why. And when work really hard at that moment in those questions to find the best answers and solutions. Our shared humanness is the foundation for everything else we do. And without that, we can't change the world. So maybe we can start to imagine a different way. Check this out.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So think different. Thank you, Apple, for that piece of wisdom that ad launched in September of 1997. Think different. Curiosity is about thinking different, and it's about asking questions, about the desire to learn, about leading from a new perspective and leading by example. I want you to think about this for just a minute. When was the last time you learned to do something for the first time? And if you would, go ahead and type into the chat, what was the feeling that came along with it? I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. Go ahead and type in the chat. Elation, proud, surfing, scary but exciting. I love that. I want to learn how to surf. You want to teach me, Andre? It's going to be bad at first. Yes. Willing to persist and learn. Anxious, proud, excitement, nerves. There's a thread here. I want you to think about those feelings, those nervous feelings, those anxious feelings, the fear, right? The fear of fall down, do it anyway. Is it going to work? I'm going to be bad at it. Will I figure it out? What's at the other side of that? Do you notice some of the things on the other side of that? Excitement, wonder, innovation, joy. Yes to all of those. And I want you to sit in this moment for 1 second and just feel those feelings, because the mind-body connection is a powerful thing. And when we think these things and you just took the minute to use your hands to let those words come out through your fingers, your body feels it again. Sit in that space for a minute. Find what's on the other side. That wonder, that joy, that excitement, that innovation. And say yes to all of it. There's innovation from curiosity. Creativity, finding new ideas to problems, doing things differently. We can't lead today the same way we were leading on January 2nd, 2019. Curiosity will bring innovation. Let's go back to the idea of changing the way we see something. And if you're able right now, I want you to take a look at what is right in front of you. I want you to name 3 different things that you see. Go ahead and put them in the chat. What are 3 things you see right in front of you? Okay. Awesome. Coffee mug. Cats. Hi, cats. Keyboard, TV, pen, notebook. Awesome. So that was not hard, right? I said, find 3 things right in front of you, and you did. There they are. And you listed them. Now I want you to turn around and look behind you. Can you name 3 different things that you see? Or just look in your monitor at what's behind you, because I'm sure you can see that too. What are 3 different things you see? Diet Dew and cobbler. That sounds like a good combination. Making me hungry here, folks. Awesome. Very good. Hey, Taylor, send your Roomba over here. Excellent. Dog toys. I do see those all over here as well. So I'm with you on that. So notice the things that you saw the first time are different from the things you saw the second time. What did you have to do? You simply just turned around, right? Only looking in one direction, you miss exactly half of what you see facing forward. We do it every day. We do it every day. We have to be curious about what else is there. We have to be able to see the whole picture, like my elephant story that I'm sure if you were here with us another time, you've heard it, but I'm going to tell you it real quick. I want you to pretend you've never seen an elephant before. I'm going to have 3 blind men explain an elephant to you right now. Blind man number 1 is standing at the tail of the elephant. Sorry about his luck. And he says, hey, Chris, I'm at this elephant thing. I'm touching this tail, and it feels like a rope. And you say, rope. I know what a rope is. I must now know what an elephant is. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day. Blind man number 2 is at the opposite side. He's at the tusks of the elephant. And he says, hey, Chris, I don't know why this guy is leading you astray, but I'm touching these tusks and they're solid. They feel actually like a lead pipe. And you now say, rope, lead pipe, 2 totally different things. Come on, get on the same page, right? And then the third blind man is standing at the leg of the elephant. He says, you know what? I don't know why they're both lying to you, but I'm here at this elephant thing and I'm touching it and it feels like a tree trunk. And you say, I have no idea what's happening right now, right? Here's what happens. We only see what we see ahead of us. It's the only thing we know is what we're looking at in that moment. And we say, I know I'm right. I know I'm right. But just because I'm right doesn't make you wrong. That's understanding that we have to be able to hear things differently and see things differently as it pertains to others' ideas and their opinions. Learning new things where we once were closed-minded is key. This takes us back to that concept, right? And both.
Sorry.
And both. Both things can be true based on our experiences and the belief windows through which we see the world. We often talk about unconscious bias as something to be aware of, right? Well, there's a part of this bias that actually helps us to not spend mental energy on things we automatically know. Yet the reminders we need in all of it is that there are other lenses that we can look through. And when we stay curious, we can learn from others about what their experience is with something we may not have had ourselves. And then there's this idea of mental toughness. Curiosity also helps exercise the mind muscle. This mental exercise makes your mind stronger. It expands and it builds what we call mental toughness. I spent quite a bit of time after getting my master's degree in sports and performance psychology, working with athletes on expanding this muscle. The human body has physical limitations. So athletes can only get so strong or so fast based on their physical muscle makeup. Our unlimited potential comes in the mind. We have so much more to learn, so much more to understand. We are only using a fraction of what we're capable of. What if we stay curious and we open our minds to the possibility of it all? So here's your mental curiosity exercise. What is something you've always done that you have no idea why you do it that way? I want you to go ahead and type in the chat. What would happen if you could be curious about other opinions and options to do it differently? What's that one thing? Let's see what you come up with. Something you've always done in a certain way and you don't know why. Make coffee. That's a good one. Fold clothes. Exercise that mind muscle. Keep going. Clean the kitchen. Always done it probably the most least efficient way. Don't we all? Pour the cereal before the milk. Good. That's a good one. Yeah. Drink while eating. You notice these are simple things, right? You're not coming up with these, huge mastermind puzzles. You're coming up with very simple things. Tie my shoes. Always pour the milk before the cereal. That way you know how much milk you have for the cereal, right? Fold towels. That's a good one. So all of these things we do out of what? We've watched someone else do them, but we've never really asked why. Is that the most effective and efficient way to do it? What would happen if we could be curious about other opinions and ways of doing things? Everything changes when we give that opportunity to stay curious. So let's talk about the next one. The next idea is clarity. Clarity is really key right now to moving us forward. We are in a time of very unclear and very mixed emotions, and all of the issues we're facing, as well as exhaustion and fatigue, all of it that we're feeling right now as a collective. How do we get clear on anything? Here's what we found to be true. Clarity of purpose, of vision and mission, those things are super important. But clarity from leadership on how they are supporting their people above all else, that's paramount. I have watched companies focus only on the bottom line in times of chaos and lose really great employees. We've heard things like, I wasn't aligned with how they ran the company, or I was just a dollar sign to them. Finding clarity on what's next begins with knowing what is driving you to show up every single day. As a leader, is there a goal, something that drives the common good? Because it's been proven time and time again now, people want to work for a company that they know that has their back, especially through hard times. As I talk about the B.R.A.V.E. program, we show up authentically. We have to continue, and more so now than ever, showing up authentically. And if you don't know all the answers, be clear on that. Let them see you as a human being. The clarity comes the moment they have the information that will allow them to sleep at night instead of feel that constant worry of the unknown. Clarity is the moment we see without opening our eyes. So here's your clarity mental exercise. Is there something for you that you feel you could be more clear about at home, at work, or as a leader? Is it laying out your goals, your vision, your mission? Is it letting people know how much they matter to you, both at home and at work? Go ahead and put one thing in the chat. What is one thing that you feel you could be more clear about? Intentions, yes. Procrastination, expectations, my own needs and desires, that's a big one. Boundaries, big one. Development process. Yeah, I see a few boundaries. So one of the things that comes up time and time again, and as you're writing these, I want you to recognize what those are for yourself. And I want you to jot them down so you remember later, because this is going to come up again. How do you develop these boundaries? How do you get clear on, how you're expressing yourselves, or maybe, where are you missing the mark that it's not clear? This idea of clarity, that idea that clarity is the moment we see without opening our eyes, makes this so much more important today, more so than ever. So understand these things as you're writing these down, and as these are building upon each other, we're staying curious, we're finding clarity. What's next? Well, what's next is actually the commitment. The word commitment reminds me of the old story of the chicken and the pig. In a bacon and egg breakfast, what's the difference between the chicken and the pig? The chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. It's one of my dad's top 5 jokes. Don't be upset with me. So the most important thing to leading differently today is the action you take to support the 2 things that came before it, right? The curiosity and the clarity. So great. You're asking the questions, you're getting clear on the answers. Now, how are you going to act on it? Taking action is putting the first 2 steps into play. I think so often we write words on a wall in the office, right? Declaring our vision statement, or our mission and values are everywhere, or we know the tagline. But what are we doing with those things? How do we make them actionable, and how do we live them out? We need to make a commitment to what we want to accomplish. Committing to the action always moves that action forward. And one of my favorite definitions that I heard a long, long time ago, commitment is doing what you said you would do long after the mood in which you had said it has passed. Think about that for a second. We've all done it, right? You've been to a social gathering with some friends, you were having a great time, and then all of a sudden someone says, oh, you know what? We're going to have a barbecue 3 weeks from now. Why don't you come? Great. Would love to. I'll bring the potato salad. Awesome. 3 weeks go by, you just finished mowing your lawn, you're exhausted, it's warm, you don't feel like going anywhere, you're flopped on the couch, your favorite movie just came on and you've got to watch it for the 97th time. And you're laying there and you hear from the other room, hey, hon, it's time to go. We should probably get going, don't you think? What's that immediate thought? Do we have to go? Right? Do we have to go? Here's the thing. We all know these people, right? The ones who say, oh yeah, I'll be there, and then don't show up. We know those bosses or those employees who say they're going to do something and they don't. Why? Why does that happen? So one thing that I've seen, and one of the most important parts of all the research that we have looked through about why people leave companies. So you ready for this? Here it is. In Lee Branham's book on the 7 hidden reasons why employees leave, one of those top reasons was loss of trust and confidence in their senior leadership. Think about that. Let that sink in. When asked, most managers thought it was pay. People leave because of money. No, that actually wasn't the reason. Loss of trust and confidence. So what's going to eradicate that, especially right now? Follow through. Commitment is about the integrity of your words. Do your words and your actions match? Do you say what you want to do and you do what you say? Do you do it? This to me is one of the most important factors in leading forward now. There's a serious war on talent right now. Many industries and companies were short-staffed. It's one thing to get great people, right? But it's another to keep them. Right now, this may be even more important than ever. And according to this research, 95% of voluntary turnover and disengagement can be avoidable. It can be avoidable. Follow through on your word. Do what you say you're going to do. That level of commitment will keep the great people you need to create healthy, inclusive, and thriving cultures. So here's your commitment mental exercise. In the chat, I want you to think about what's one thing you said you were going to do and haven't done it yet. Go ahead, call yourself out. Having vulnerability in this whole process is key to its success. What's the one thing that you will do today to make sure it happens? Lose weight, yard work, call the HVAC guy, weight loss, learn how to play the piano, clean out my car. Yes, yes, yes. You see these, right? You're not alone. We're all in the same boat, right? We're all in the same boat. But how do we make these decisions to take these commitments seriously, to do what we say we're going to do? It's something that I use for myself over and over and over again, because I am a person of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. That's something that I can hang my hat on. And I will tell you that's something that my friends and colleagues and everyone else know. I can hang my hat on that. Because at the end of the day, all we have is our word. And what does it mean? And if you're a leader and you're leading without following through on those commitments, on the things you say you're going to do, your people know it. And guess what? This isn't just about your people. It's about you. Because when we let ourselves down, ourselves know it too. When we say we're going to take care of ourselves and we don't, we put ourselves on the back burner because everyone else comes first. What happens? Nothing good. When we make these commitments, we have to take them seriously. And we make them not just to others, but to us. So what would that look like today if you could follow through on the thing that you kept saying you're going to do? What would change? Go ahead and put in the chat, what would change? What would change if you actually followed through? Would anything bad happen? Or would it be positive? Feel accomplished. Yeah. Even healthier and feel great. Yes, absolutely. Look at all of these answers. Absolutely. And the one that says increase in self-worth, 100%. 100%. Now I want to touch on, I see that you may overcommit and may not have much left for self. I want you to look at that and understand that that absolutely is a real thing. That's where boundaries come in. And that's where we have to be really good at setting the right boundaries. That we say no when we need to say no, but when we say yes and that we're going to do something, we do it. We do it. Or don't say yes. You absolutely can say no. But it's that space in between that people will watch as you don't follow through. And that's a really, really important thing. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, you've asked the questions. You've gotten clear on the answers. You've made the commitment to action. What could possibly be more important than all of that? Making sure that it's not just a passing initiative like the last one everyone got on board with and claimed was important, right? We've all done that. Companies do it all the time. Instead, we have to make sure that it happens with consistency over and over again. It's not enough to do something one time, to tell your team it's important and then let it fizzle after a few weeks. Building trust is how you lead from here. And it's the only way you can lead from here. You can't do that when you keep introducing the flavor of the month initiative or program. Creating a culture your people want to stay in is built on trust. And trust equals consistency over time. So this is where my sports psychology hat comes back in. Forgive me for this analogy, but go with me for a moment. I grew up playing baseball and softball. No stereotypical jokes, please. But when an athlete has a doubt creep in the midst of competition, we teach them how to use a mantra to help create what we call a routine. And routines help the mind tell the body that it's ready. And quite simply, it's the idea of, oh, right, I've been here before. That routine is the basis of consistency. There is no question who you are and how you feel. You show up authentically, you listen, you're genuine, and you lead from both the head and the heart. You're consistent with that leadership. They never have to worry about which Susan is showing up today. If your name's Susan, sorry, I just picked a name. Is this the nice Susan who I want to open up to about my life and chat with and really be vulnerable around? Or is this the one who walks in and doesn't even say hi? Consistency is about not making your people have to guess. It's about making your people know because they trust you. So here's your consistency mental exercise. Think about the last time you introduced something into your culture, a new idea or initiative that maybe did or didn't take off the way you wanted it to. Did it fizzle out? Did it not have wings to begin with? Why? Think about that for a second. What did you say and how did you handle it? Did you drop the ball? What does that look like? And how do you change that approach to make things more consistent for your teams? Instead of creating programs and initiatives, I want you to focus on creating a sustainable culture that is about how you move the needle every day, not one day. What you do every single day, therefore, is no longer a program or a flavor of the month. It is who you are. And what does that look like? Go ahead and put in the chat how you can do it differently. What's one thing you can start doing and one thing you can stop doing tomorrow in order to be more consistent? And yes, Ian, sometimes we need to pivot. Our priorities change. The thing we committed to previously are no longer a priority. So here's how you handle that. I think what we need to be very clear on is this affecting the greater good? Are we just saying yes to random things and putting things into practice for 1 month and then it's gone? What happens, and I've heard it from plenty of people in plenty of different organizations, that it feels like it's just another thing. Why should we take it seriously? So instead of just introducing random things, think really carefully about what you're putting into your culture and when you're putting it into your culture, because it has to be sustainable. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Learn to put myself first, time to strategize, smaller bites. Yes, yes, yes. Involve our executive team. Absolutely. Okay, so understanding that some of these things that we believe are important absolutely are. But the truth is, if we can't sustain it, it just becomes another flavor of the month. And this is another thing that's listed when you ask people, why do you lose trust? Why do you lose, that feeling of passion for going to work? What is all of those, what are all the things that come up? And a lot of times it's it's just not consistent. People aren't consistent. Leadership isn't consistent. Consistency, again, think about it. It builds trust. And what do you need 100% of the time is trust. You can't work and you can't lead if you don't trust each other. That's critical. And this is a huge component in trust. Okay, excellent. So that brings me full circle to bring this all together and talk about culture. So you've asked the right questions. You got clear on the answers. You took action on them and you did it consistently. So what happens now? You focus on keeping your finger on the pulse. It's time now to really take an honest look at your culture. What do you want it to look like? And what do you want it to feel like? Who's leading that charge? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing on communicating it all consistently? Because communication in all of this is the part a lot of times that falls off and is not as consistent as it should be. So think about what your culture goal is for Q4. What about for 2022? And how do you get there? Get curious, find clarity, make a commitment, and do it consistently. Because the most important part, don't do it in spite of your people, do it because of your people. And when you're empathetic, sometimes you have to be vulnerable. That brings me to the story of Moore's Tire Sales. I got a phone call one day in, I think it was 2016, from the owner of the largest tire distributor in the state of New York. His name was Bill Moore. And on the phone, Bill says to me, hey, I found you online. I love your stuff. I would love to bring you in for our annual sales meeting. I said, great, I would love to do that. He said, I'm going to have about 20 or so sales managers, one from every distribution center that we have. Awesome. Go ahead and drive up. Now, this was a tiny little town. When I say tiny, there might not have been a stoplight. In somewhere in the corner of upstate New York, middle of nowhere. He said, come on up, stay in this hotel, come down in the morning, come in the back of the room. I will be kicking it off, and then I'll call you up when I'm ready. Great, sounds good. So I drove up, middle of nowhere, I stay overnight, I come down, I get my coffee, and I go into the back of the room, and this is what I see. A whole room full of middle-aged to older men. And I thought, okay, it's interesting. What do I have to do with tire sales with a bunch of guys? And I could have prejudged that whole situation. And I started to. And my vulnerability is in telling you that I started to. And I recognized, you know what, I have two options. I can go up and do my thing and leave. They paid me already, just do it and go. And you know, do a good job. That's it. Or I could really dig in that day and do whatever I could to give them all of me, 100%, like I do pretty much everywhere I go. Of course, I chose that. So I went up, I did my 90-minute thing. At the very end, I had us do something I call the confidence resume. And I had this piece of paper numbered 1 to 10. You could do this anywhere, anytime. You don't need a fancy piece of paper. I've done this on a napkin. And on this confidence resume, numbered 1 to 10, all I simply said was, we're going to end with this exercise, and I'm going to have you all fill this out with all of your strengths. I'll give you about a minute, and then we'll go around, and everybody's going to give me just one. Excellent. So I give them about a minute, and I start going. I was walking on the inside of that horseshoe. And as they were saying their one, I was pulling it out, and I was saying, you know, here's what each person says, and I'm repeating after them. So the first guy goes, and we go through the whole, and we're somewhere halfway through, and I won't point it out. And I looked down, and I was always kind of just looking at the next person ahead, and this guy had nothing on his piece of paper. And I remember looking and thinking, this guy's too cool for school, right? He didn't want to write anything down. Okay, that's fine. And I said to him, I said, okay, go ahead, just give us one. And he was looking down on his paper. And about 10 seconds goes by, and he finally looks up at me, and we make eye contact, and his eyes are full of tears. And I said, okay, we're going to stop right here. And I say, hey guys, do you know him? And they're all like, yeah, we know, we love, he's great. I said, well, you're going to help him fill this out. So then everyone's throwing all these wonderful things about this guy. And I looked at him, and he's, just wide-eyed listening. And I said, go ahead, write these down. What are you doing? So he picks up his pen, he starts writing them down. We finish. There's not a dry eye in the place. I get hugs. I leave that night, and I drive home feeling really content, feeling like we made a difference that day. And I sat down on my couch like I always do when I get home, and I read through the feedback forms they gave me with a glass of wine. And I remember I found his. And his simply said this, and I will never forget it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You showed me strengths that I didn't think I had. See, I'm going through a very difficult divorce right now, and my wife thinks I'm nothing. And in that moment, I recognized the power of vulnerability. I recognized the power of creating that safe space so that we can show up as our whole selves. We can do it with our peers and our boss. And we can be present in the moment. And I realized never again will I walk into a room and judge before it happens. I needed that moment of clarity. I needed to stay curious about what was happening around me. I needed to not assume that these were these big, strong men who lead all of these teams of people and have no vulnerabilities at all. And the empathy we bring in those moments changes lives. And we've got to do it more now than ever. So with that, I'm going to do one last exercise. Eileen's going to put you in breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. And your assignment is to each choose one of the C's, one of these 5 C's that we just talked about, that you feel you need the most work on. And then I want you to decide what you're going to do when you leave Summit today in order to do so. And if you feel like it, I want you to go ahead and exchange emails with your group. Pick an accountability partner. This is the biggest killer of consistency, is when we don't hold ourselves or don't ask someone to help us hold us accountable for what we say we're going to do. And then we're going to wrap up and open it up for questions as soon as you come back. All right, Eileen, take us away. 10 minutes. You have only 10 minutes. So let's make it happen.
Great. Opening the rooms now.
So go ahead and accept when you see your breakout room. You'll be back here in 10 minutes. Okay, there's still a few of you. Go ahead and hit that accept, go into the breakout room. And we'll see you here in a minute, in 10 minutes. We're 7 now. Eileen, we'll bring them back at 1:20, okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. There we go. Can you float me around?
I think so. Yeah.
Throw me into a room.
I'm gonna throw you in a room too.
Cool. Throw me in a room, right. and I'll come back out, and then you can throw me in another room.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Hi. How we doing?
Good. You want to bring them back now? They have, I did a 10-minute timer, but we can bring them back now.
Give them another 30 seconds and then.
Okay. Got it. And
Cool.
Janelle can't be mad at me.
Oh, is this the last slide? We're done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So when they got it. When they
So
come back.
I'll do a quick wrap on what everyone just talked about.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to open it to questions. Did we get any?
Yeah, there was one, and then they wanted to know what B.R.A.V.E stood for.
Yeah.
And
okay,
then
I'll go through that quick.
Yeah, and then Robert had a hand raised. I didn't know if there was a question, but just want to make sure to reach out in case it was.
If you want to do that, yeah, I'll let you initiate this and just tell me what the questions are, and I'll do that.
Yep, definitely. All right, I'm gonna pull up from back in. Yep.
All right. Are we? No, not yet. Give them another minute. I guess we're not all back, right?
Yeah, just 3 seconds. And then it closes automatically. There we go.
Excellent. Cool. All right, as people are coming back, let's have a quick little chat to close that up. How did we do? What came from your time together? Does anyone want to jump in and say something? I think they can take themselves off mute, right, Eileen?
They sure can. Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Open it up to you all. Tell me what came from that. I see Andres. Oh, Jennifer, go ahead. Was that you?
Yes. So in our discussions, we both did pick something that stands out to us that we feel we need to work more on. And at the end of the entire discussion, we agreed that these C's do overlap quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And it makes more sense if you're able to pick out what you need the most within the period to be able to stay more grounded in the rest of them.
Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you for that insight. Andre, go ahead.
The group was great, and one of our members actually had a great idea of the fact that, kind of the way you laid out the C's, it almost was like a pyramid kind of effect, that you develop the clarity and such before you can get to commitment and consistency and building culture, right? And that they all kind of are a foundation to each other. I also wanted to mention I had a question that I put in the chat box before we started about, and you mentioned this earlier in the talk, that your original 5 C's included courage, but I wanted to ask you, with people being still racked with fear and being so tired and such of everything going on, what are ways that you see that we can do, small and large, that we can find courage, to go to another level and to be better leaders?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you for that, Andre. What I'm looking at, and in a lot of the conversations I'm having with companies and even just with individuals today, what we're saying is, number one, we have to recognize we're not going to do it perfectly, right? So this perfectionism idea that I joke that I'm a recovering perfectionist, it holds us back, right? And it makes us more fearful almost sometimes to act, because we're afraid we're going to get it wrong. We're going to get it wrong, and it's okay. We've never been here before, right? We're in this space that we've never experienced. And I think it's really important to remember that. Secondly, it's important to find people to align with, right? So we have a peer group, we have, whether it's a mentorship or coaching or whatever it is, don't do this alone. You notice my tagline, because we aren't meant to do this alone. We're not. And every time I get into that, I'm doing this alone, I reach out to Eileen or Janelle, who's my admin, or Michelle, who's my business manager, and I say, okay, help, right? I'm so used to doing things alone. We have to get rid of that. We are all in this together. We're going through, you know, we're seeing the world from different belief windows, but we're all going through the same stuff. And as we can recognize that and remember, have the courage to reach out and be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what? I could use some support in this. The more we do that, the easier that becomes. And now we have people around us. We know we're not going to do it right all the time. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And we can lead together, right? We don't have to do this in isolation. This is not just one group of people who are going through something. So hopefully that is helpful. Anyone else? Any other questions? I know we'll just take one more minute and then I'll do a quick little wrap up here. Any other questions? Oh, I did see there was one about what does B.R.A.V.E stand for? Belonging, resilience, authenticity, vulnerability, and empathy. And that's a program I deliver often. And then the original 5 C's were character, communication, choice, courage, and confidence. And now you got the 5 C's 2.0 version. So I'm going to do this. This is my contact info. You see it all on the slide here. If you would please go back to the Summit app after we're finished, hit the feedback form button on this session. I would really appreciate it. I know all your speakers really appreciate getting those filled out. They don't take long. It's a huge help for all of us and for Out and Equal. So we'd really appreciate doing the feedback on the site. Secondly, if you want to continue the conversation or begin a new one, or just need some support, or just want to chat about, I don't know, the Yankees or dogs or whatever, here's how. This is my contact info. I'm more than happy to chat anytime. I'm invested in the work I do and with whom I do it. And some of you have taken me up on that over the years. I welcome it every single time. Some of you have had me speak at your events. Some have utilized me for ongoing consulting. Some just had conversations with me. I consider you all my friends, and I look forward to this event every single year. I'm here, reach out if I can help you, and I do mean this in any way. Lastly, if you want to get some more goodies, go ahead and text the word BRAVE to this number, 215-509-5239. Eileen is putting that in the chat, as well as my website and email. You can find me on LinkedIn as Jen Kronberger. Thank you so much for showing up with me today. I cannot wait to connect with you all again. I hope that you all had a fantastic week at Summit. Much love to you all. Stay safe, stay well, and enjoy the end of Summit. Thank you so much, everyone. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's good to see you all today.